So hey, this is going to be my last game room tour ever. Because why would I keep doing a tour of the same room? Now, in all fairness, it has changed quite a bit from the last video, which I'd done like 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember. I plan on keeping it like this for now on. I'm also going to explain why I collect all this stuff beyond, I guess, just being a man-child who can't let go of the past, right? So I guess sit back, buckle in. I have about 7 trillion games and toys to go over, and let's just get started. Now, first up, as you come in, you see the bookshelf. That's really hasn't changed. I have all my Nintendo Powers, my Game Pro, all my EGN, all the magazines that I want to keep. The only difference here is that I have more of them since the last time I made this video. Sears catalogs, just so much stuff. Strategy guides and some of the first issues of Nintendo Power up here on top. And all the loose video game manuals. Move over to the NES shelf. I actually made this shelf myself. I custom made it to hold NES games perfectly, and it does the job pretty well. Now, I have downsized my NES game collection, I would say by about 20%, selling some of the more heavy hitters so I could help fund the movie. I sold Little Samson, unfortunately. A few others, most of them in the post-production process to help pay for that, but you know, it had to be done, and hopefully I can come across them again one day at the flea market. Up on top, this really hasn't changed other than the addition or subtraction of maybe a few boxes, but this is my box collection, and some of the boxes I like to display because they're the ones that mean the most to me for just various reasons. Either they're games I had growing up or games that I fell in love with as I started renting games or even collecting games. So these are kind of like my wall of fame games that I just really want to display. And of course, I still got the KB Toys display cabinet, and in this thing I have still my kind of like a Super Nintendo shrine. I obviously have the boxes on top, and then right here in the middle I have the signed NES that was used in Adventures Game Chasing. I'm not sure what we're going to do with this. Maybe we'll auction it off one day, but for right now it sits here in a safe little spot that nothing can happen to it. Now in here I also keep some more boxed Super Nintendo games, N64, some PC stuff, and of course my handheld stuff, my Game Boy and Game Gear stuff as well. This plastic holder that the Game Boy games is actually the one that I had bought in an episode when me and Melville went to some garage sale, and I said, this might be really good for holding Game Boy games, and sure enough it was. Here on this back wall, I have Super Nintendo games, again, downsized a little bit. On the top, I have the boxes, either they're loose boxes on some systems, but on some of them, they actually have the system in them, as I don't really have anywhere else to put them. I only have so much room to hook up systems to my TV, so I keep them in here, and if I want to bust out with them and have a night of amazing fun with the ColecoVision, say, then I can just pull it down and hook it up, and then when I'm done, put it back up. Here, of course, is my Atari ST corner. Now, this is near and dear to my heart. I love the Atari ST. I love collecting for the Atari ST. Brings back a lot of really good memories. Love my dad and I going and renting Atari ST games. A friend across the street had one, so he would always copy games and we would play them. He was a bad kid, though. That wood paneling back there that I have back there is absolutely perfect because it was exactly how it was in my house growing up. The Atari ST was up against the wall, wood paneling looked just like that. And I have some of my more, favorite franchises, games that are based on from some of my favorite franchises right here on top, front and center. With RoboCop, I loved this game. One of my favorites actually growing up. Never played Gremlins 2, but I have it here. Obviously Monsters as well. Lots of cool stuff up here. Now on the top shelf here, I got my Genesis collection, Master System, Sega CD, and all my boxed Intellivision and Atari games, and some overflow of NES games that there's just not enough room to put them on the wall of fame, so they kind of sit here, library style, but it's cool too. Sometimes I'll rotate them out, which ones are facing up, so I can kind of appreciate the amazing art. Not a huge Genesis collection, but a lot of games though that I like, and I kind of have shifted my focus somewhat in collecting, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but mainly when it comes to the Genesis, I just have the games that I really want. I don't go just balls to the wall, just getting everything that I can. Unless, of course, it's $2 at a flea market. Then that's a different story. I definitely have a decent amount of Intellivision games. The Intellivision was the first system I ever remember gaming on. My grandmother had one, and so I have a lot of memories with it. Baseball, Burger Time, loved those games growing up. Definitely loved the artwork on the boxes. So collecting the boxes is really important to me because they do bring back a lot of nostalgia. That watercolor look that they would commonly do on those boxes. They just have a very unique feel to them. And so I have an appreciation for them. A lot of these boxes on the NES, in pretty terrible shape, especially this Legend of Zelda. I would say that when it does come to collecting NES, a lot of my focus now is on the boxes because some of the boxes that I have now are in just terrible shape, and I could definitely use an upgrade. So this Atari shelf here is another one that was custom made that I built just specifically to hold Atari games. Because what shelf out there exists that really is capable of holding Atari games in an efficient manner? But yeah, anyway, it holds Atari, Intellivision, and even TI-99 stuff I have down there at the bottom. But this whole shelf essentially just kind of holds my, pre-NES games, just all the obscure stuff, Fairchild F, ColecoVision, VIC-20, and all that sort of thing. Right here we have my Mario 3 shrine. It's changed slightly. I have more stuff to it, but I definitely have an unhealthy obsession with Mario 3. Not exactly sure why there's a random Metal Storm poster. I guess I really had nowhere to put it. That's a Nintendo Power. It's cover. It's not a poster. It ripped off. But anyway, this is where I have my McDonald's Mario 3 boxes, which I absolutely love. Did get some of those back in the day, so they do hold some nostalgia for me. All right, and down here I have obviously all my PS2 games, PS3, PSP, Wii stuff, not much to talk about. And over here on the left I have my PlayStation stuff, PlayStation 1 stuff, and TurboGrafx 16, Turbo CD, CD-based stuff. And down there at the bottom, my GameCube collection. When it comes to the GameCube, for the most part, I just have the stuff that I ended up playing back in the day, either had, rented, that sort of thing. The stuff that I essentially just really want. Now this is the best change in my opinion. It's the big entertainment center that I got to replace those rackety ass shelves that were just basically falling apart and didn't really do well. Some of them were bookshelves, and so you had to put the wires through the side. It was just a big mess. So I went out and I got this big beast, and it holds all the consoles that I love and want to play at any given moment perfectly. It holds them all. My NES, Super Nintendo, obviously, Turbo Duo, TurboGrafx 16, and my Genesis, which actually is the Sega XI that I had gotten in Houston. And so that's what I use for that. But yeah, it holds every system that I need it to hold, and everything is hooked up through switchers, and so there's no unplugging anything or anything of the sort. If I want to play a console, I'll just hit a few buttons on the switcher, it all goes through, it's patched through, it goes to this amazing Trinitron television, and it just works perfectly. It's just so much better now than it was before, and it's so much more convenient. And so I also have this old crappy coaxial television, this little small one here that I got, I believe, for $10 at Retropalooza from Kingsley. But anyway, yeah, I just got it because why not? And the NES games and the Super Nintendo games I have here, I have them for a reason. Now, these are the NES games that I actually owned as a kid. Now, these aren't the actual physical carts. Unfortunately, I don't know where those went. And I actually had them, in our grandmother's house. I had them in one of those exact holders that they're in now. So I thought that would be a nice little callback to nostalgia to have the games that I grew up with on NES in their same little case. Same thing here with the Super Nintendo, actually. Now, I didn't have the container. We had a little cardboard box to put them in, but these were the games that we had, so I wanted to do the same thing with the Super Nintendo. Now over here on the left, we have my awesome console television. This is not the one that I bought for $10 on one of the episodes. Unfortunately, that one, I think, crapped out on me a few years after I had it, so I had to replace it with another one. I'm not exactly sure where I found this one. I can't remember. I love it. It works for now, thank God. But if you're going to play in television or Atari, it has to be on one of these televisions. So I decided to use this strictly for the old stuff. And just like with Super Nintendo and NES, these are the Atari and Intellivision games for the most part. I'm missing some Intellivision games. I'm not sure why, but those are the Atari games that my grandmother had. And so the ones that mean the most to me. So I decided, hey, put them on a little shelf here and do the same thing with those. And of course the Vectrex, my old school lamp. So this whole little area right here is like the 80s just threw up. Kind of like how my cat threw up on my Trinitron television because he's an asshole. And we got this little shelf here that I just put a bunch of stuff that I can't fit anywhere else on, like this Millennium Falcon, Return of the Jedi plastic model kit. I took down all my VHSs. I realized they really weren't serving a purpose, and honestly, I don't really collect VHS as much as I was at that point. It's just gotten to the point where it was just too much. That old wall was really just taking up space. I couldn't put anything up against it. I really needed to make some room, especially since my office was just too full of toys. I had to do something. I made my game room my game and toy room, whereas most of these toys were sitting around in my office where I work, which was just really overcrowding everything. I got this nice shelf here where I put some of the bigger Star Wars toys and G.I. Joe toys that I have, and maybe one day I'll grow up and get rid of these things, but for now they needed a spot, and I decided to just put them right here. This is where the VHS wall used to be, but now as you can see, I went and got these glass containers. Curio cabinets, I guess is what they call them. My grandmother used to have curio cabinets, but these are much less granny-like, I guess. So I wanted to put all my big toys, the ones, well, I say big, I mean big franchise toys, like GoBots, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Star Wars. So I wanted to put them in a place that they kind of like kept the dust off. I can light it up nice and just make it look really cool and presentable. I got my NECA Gremlins in there. Big thing that drives me crazy about those things though is they're always falling down, and even after buying the NECA stands that come with them, they still fall down. So every couple of days I'll come up here and one or two of them, they just fall over. This is where I keep most of my loose figures, my figures on stands. This is a much better method. Now I do think that I need to get some more lights to put them at the bottom. It gets kind of dark down there at the bottom, but you know, first world problems, whatever. But I just really like this setup so much better, and it keeps the figures kind of in a place where they're not going to collect a bunch of dust and be in the way down in my office. So now here on top of these curio cabinets, I have some of my favorite Joe vehicles, such as the Night Raven, broken, so I kind of need to get an upgrade, but until I do, it can sit here. And some of the G.I. Joe boxes, I have them up here on this shelf, and I love displaying these. And before I didn't really have anywhere to put them, so I'm glad I actually have this here now. My favorite poster from Nintendo Power, and so I found this frame at Goodwill. There was a picture already in it. I'm thinking to myself, this is the exact size of a Nintendo Power poster. I'm not sure how I knew that, but my brain was telling me it was. And so I just got it, and it happened to be the exact size. So I'm happy about that. And right here on this Millennium Falcon, I actually ordered some stickers, some replacement stickers, to replace the stickers that are on it, because a lot of the stickers are off on this thing or just peeling off or just destroyed. So I thought it'd be cool to put some replacements on it. So I'm going to do that and maybe make a video restoring this Millennium Falcon. The same Millennium Falcon that I found in a Toy Chasers episode, actually, by the way. Now we'll come back to the game room, but real quickly, I want to go down to the office because there's actually some stuff down there, some big time changes, and the fact that I actually had to make some changes to the office facilitated me having to make changes to the game room. So I guess it's a little bit part of the story. So I have my amazing bookshelves here. This is where I learn about paranormal stuff and look sophisticated and all that. But obviously you can see the Sky Striker, one of my favorite jets. I did want to still keep a few toys here and there in my office because it's an office. Need to get inspired, and sometimes if I'm editing a video I need to get inspired by G.I. Joe, then there's the Sky Striker I can take a gander at. This actual area is completely different from the last time I ever made a video on it. It was just it looked like a toy store threw up in here, and it was just a mess. It was a complete mess. And so I decided this needs to be a working office because I am doing more work with actual real clients again, and if somebody needs to come over, they're going to need a place to sit, and they don't need to walk into a toy store. A little bit is fine, but it was pretty overboard. With that said, I'm going to put my movie collection in here too, and maybe I'll do some sort of movie collection on my vlog channel. But I'm a huge movie collector. I love movies, always have. Some of you may not even realize that. And so I got tons of Blu-ray, tons of 4K, love movies. And so this is my humble collection of movies. Some of the stuff that just really mean a lot to me or I find interesting up here on top. I love the Midnight Movie series, good stuff. Obviously I got some of my box toys up here like the A-Wing that I got at Toy Base 10. I still have that, it's up here. And some of my model kits. And just various random things thrown about. I still do actually need to do a little bit more organizing in here. I built some doors onto my office so I could actually work in peace. Unfortunately, I got sidetracked, and then when I came back to finish the project, lumber had gone through the roof. And so I'm like, I'm not finishing this now until wood gets cheaper. And this is my computer. This is where I edit everything on. I edit Game Chasers episodes on. I edit the movie on. This is where everything that ends up polluting the internet with our nonsense, this is where it stems from. So blame this workstation. So this is my collection. It's my game room, my toy room. This has been one of my obsessions for the last 15 years, and you get to see its evolution throughout time, and this is what it currently looks like. As I stated before, I have changed a little bit since I started collecting. It really became a game to essentially get all the stuff that I had a connection with. And that's why I was going to flea markets and going to eBay at the very beginning, just finding games, hey, I used to rent that, let me get it again. And it went to that, to let me just go to the flea market and get everything. I need a full collection of NES, I need a full collection of Super Nintendo, and it really became more about the thrill of finding something and completionist mentality more than anything. And I don't know, maybe there's something to be said of losing sight of what it was really all about. I wouldn't say I've gone down the route of just being about the stuff that I grew up with. It's more of a happy medium now. You know, there's that core of games and toys that I'll always appreciate because I have such a connection to it. But it's also a combination of things that I discovered while collecting that I fell in love with and thought, hey, this is an amazing game. I'm glad I found it. And then also the fun of just discovering something that you've never played and being like, you know what, that's a really good game. Where has it been all my life? So for me, it's really more of a healthy approach to collecting in general, I would say. And one really cool thing about this entire process is the fact that, you know, it used to really all be about me. It was about what game do I want for my collection? You know, and my life has changed over the last few years. I have a son now, and he's gotten to the age where he understands games. He knows how to play games. And it goes by fast. Seems like yesterday I was just introducing him to Super Mario Brothers, and now he can get to World 4 without warping. And it's really crazy. And I think to myself, okay, well, it's not about me anymore. It's about us. It's not my game room, it's also his now.
I have 3 wipes.
And so all that work of going to the flea market and finding all this stuff, now it's creating memories with my son. You know, I can't tell you how many times now where we've been up here and he'll just run over to the NES shelf, he'll pick a game and say, what's this about?
Who's that?
He's genuinely excited to pull a game off the shelf, put it in the NES or the Super Nintendo, and just see what it's all about. And it always puts a smile on my face, because I know what it was like to play a lot of this stuff for the first time, and so seeing him play it for the first time too, just sit back and watch. You're getting to experience them again in a different way.
I got Bowser. I saved Toad.
Hope you enjoyed this. Maybe you got some insight into why I do this, and I would imagine that a lot of you are probably relating to this as well, and that's why you clicked on this video and watched this channel. So thank you everybody for watching. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe. I'm probably going to put a little subscribe button there, or check out some more videos and all that YouTube stuff. And hit the like button. If you thought the game room was great, hit like. If you didn't, hit dislike. I don't know.